Guys, it's me, it's Queen Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. All right, so people were asking me, what is it like to live in Costa Rica? Everybody knows that most of the time I'm in Costa Rica. I go to Colombia, Panama, um, but I'm always mostly in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is my spot. Okay, so what is it like to live here? Well, if you live in the States, you can imagine it's warm. So if you're like in Arizona, California, Florida, it's that kind of thing. It's always warm. Um, Sometimes warmer than others. Typically, it's between like 75 degrees up to like 105. It depends on where you are. I live in what they call the Central Valley. So here is mostly the coolest part. It's usually between like 75 and 85 here. Lots of mountains around. So it's really cool in this part. But if you go to one of the beaches, like the coast, the Pacific coast, or the Caribbean coast, it's hot. It's like 100 degrees, right? It's really hot. When you go to those kind of places like Jaco Beach, places like that, you have to have air conditioning in your hotel room or whatever you're staying in because it is hot. Where I'm at, we don't even have air conditioning. Some people do that choose to, put it in, but it's not necessary is the point. And electricity is very expensive here. So is gas. If you have a car, gas is very expensive. So people try to do away with stuff that they really don't need. So we don't really need an air conditioner. You can just open the windows. The breeze is amazing. And the most I ever have is a fan, which we don't even always cut on. So that part is really cool. The weather is the best in the world, like amazing weather. So I love that aspect. There's 6 months of hot, what we call we have a dry season and a rainy season. So for 6 months it's dry and for 6 months it's rainy. During the rainy season, it just rains an hour to 2 hours every single day, which is great because it gives us a lot of lush, greenery, and lots of fruits grow here, and coffee and bananas, and I mean lots, lots of stuff like that. So that part is really cool. And then, like I said, we have the dry season for 6 months, and it doesn't rain at all. There's no rain at all. So during that time, we can pretty much just expect blue skies. That's pretty much it. It's just beautiful blue skies. People here, the Costa Ricans can speak English. They mostly speak Spanish, though. That's their main language, but a lot of them speak English, so it's really cool. So it's not really hard to get around. It's not really hard to shop. It's not really hard to do stuff because a lot of people know at least a little bit of English. They're used to Americans because a lot of Americans, Canadians, and Europeans come here to visit. So, and there's a lot of people retire here from those places as well. It's a very sought after retirement destination, as well as vacation spot. So they're used to us. They're used to foreigners being here, and there are a lot of us here. A lot of people of different races are here. I see them all the time, all over the place. They don't like people that have nasty superior attitudes. Some people that come from other places can be very entitled, and they'll try to talk down to people here. They do not like that at all. Nobody would, obviously. So that's something that will definitely get you nowhere here. They are not trying to hear it. They're very polite, very kind people. They hate saying no, but they will not let you run all over them, and you can forget that. So you have to really have a lot of kindness and consideration when you're dealing with people, which you should have with people all over the world. The problem, I think, with Costa Rica for a lot of people, honestly, is too much freedom. I think that some people come here from the States and from other places, and I think it's just too much freedom, and they're an idiot. If you're an idiot, too much freedom will get you killed, because you're an idiot. Too much freedom. They sell alcohol in almost every store. It's not one store you go into, even a dinky little corner store, a little mom and pop corner store is going to have vodka, cacique, rum. They're going to have alcohol. So if you're an idiot and you have too much freedom, you're going to be drinking too much. You're going to be smoking too much herb. You're going to be doing prescription drugs, which you don't even need a prescription for. A lot of drugs that you would need a prescription for in other places. There's hookers everywhere. If you're stupid and start buying hookers and buying cocaine and thrill seeking and drinking alcohol, an idiot will kill themselves, basically. So you have to be somebody who's responsible if you're going to come to a place like Costa Rica. Costa Rica is not going to hold your hand, not going to babysit you. You have to have common sense. You have to know how to handle yourself. And a lot of people who come here become alcoholics or have problems with drugs because when they come here, it's accessible and they don't know how to control themselves. So I've seen a lot of people have problems here because of that. I've seen people do videos even about, how they became an alcoholic in Costa Rica and things like that. Because remember, a lot of people come here to retire. So they have a lot of time on their hands, a lot of freedom, and a lot of access to a lot of alcohol. And so that's what they start doing instead of doing something productive like writing a book or painting pictures or something like that. For me, it's easy because I still work. I work every single day, up to 10 hours a day. So for me, I teach English classes online and I also do readings all day. So, and I do priestess, classes and, I do spiritual work. I'm working all day. So I don't have time to just sit around and chill and drink beers, So I have things to do. So because of that, it's easy for me. But if you retire here and you have nothing to do, a lot of people fall into trouble. They fall into some kind of trouble, which I imagine could happen anywhere. But I think there's just so much freedom here. And some people can't handle freedom. Aquarius thrive on it, but some people can't handle it. Sometimes there are water shortages because remember I mentioned the dry season. It's not usually a problem in the big cities because the big cities have the same kind of systems that most big cities have around in the world. But I have seen it be a problem like in little areas. They might have like a time when there's no water, like from this hour to this hour, from 8 to 4, you can't use any water. There is no water. And then from 4 p.m. to the next day, there is water. They do things like rationing the water like that. So you will find that problems, especially in small areas. I mentioned that the electricity and the gas is cheap. The internet service is pretty good in the major areas. So you have to live in a major area to have really reliable internet service. If you live in certain places, like some places by the beach or some places, like when I was living in the mountains, the internet was shaky. It was in and out. It wasn't reliable. So if you have a job like where you're working online, you have to live in like one of the major cities, where the internet service is grounded and is similar to what it is in the States. So you just have to do your homework with that and make sure that you live someplace like that. The cost of living is kind of expensive because it's expensive to import things. So if you get things shipped to you, like let's say a friend sends you a package and it's certain packages, they will charge you an import fee on. So that's expensive. So shipping things back and forth can be expensive. If you're somebody who likes to use like Amazon or something like that, that's another consideration. That is expensive. I use Amazon all the time. I just got over it. I was like, well, I'm getting my stuff, and it does come in fairly quickly, but I pay dearly for shipping. So I don't order as frequently so I can cut down on shipping costs. I order things in bulk. So I might order 5 things at once instead of 1 at a time. And like I said, the cost of living it's not expensive in comparison. Like I spend about as much money here as I did in Philadelphia. But if you move to like Mexico or like Colombia, there's places where your cost of living is, I mean, like amazing. Like you might spend $700 for a month, whereas I'm spending about as much. My monthly budget in Philadelphia was between $1,500 and $2,000, and that's about how much it is now. It's about exactly the same. But if you go to like Mexico or if you go to like Colombia or different places like that, there are other places that you can get a much bigger bang for your buck. So a lot of people who choose to be in this part of the world usually go to the places that are cheaper than Costa Rica. I like Costa Rica myself because, like I said before, it doesn't have an army. It's not a place that believes in war, And I like that. And I like the fact that it's one of the safer countries in the world too. So I like that as well. I mean, everybody has crime. Everybody has crime. Everybody has burglars. Everybody has, all kind of things go on. But in comparison to some other places, it has a pretty decent rate. I've never seen anybody get assaulted or harmed, but I've seen that where I came from. Where I came from, please, I've seen burglaries, assaults, harms. I saw somebody get shot. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've seen none of that here. So that's been a blessing. Let's see. And then Tico time. Tico time. Tico time is Ticos are what they call the Costa Ricans. They call them Ticos or Ticas. Ticas are the women, Ticos are the men, Ticos are both of them together. Tico or Tica. So, they work on their own time. Very similar, in my opinion, to colored people time. Black people would know what I'm talking about. Or African time, if you're African, is basically the day nothing happens quite on time. If a Costa Rican says they'll be there by 5, they'll be there 5-ish, 5:30, 5:45, somewhere in there. They're going to get there, and sometimes it could be a little bit later than that, but they're going to get there. That's the point. It's just that you can't, think they're going to be there exactly on time. Being American, if somebody tells me they're going to be here at 6 o'clock, I expect them between 5:55 and 6. That's what time I would show up. But being on Tico time or African time or hood time, color people time, that's not how it is. So when the Ticos say I'll be there at 5, they're showing up, but you don't know what time. So you have to be flexible with things like that. If you're an uptight person, that can really bother you. It doesn't bother me. I'm already used to it because I grew up in the hood, so I already know the deal. So if they tell me 5, I'm like, okay, they'll be here sometime after 5. Could be 5, could be 6, could be 7. I know they're coming though. So for me, it never bothers me. I just laugh and I'm happy when they show up, I'm grateful when they show up. And remember, I told you guys about the mail service. The Corio, they call it the Corio, that's the mail service, is slower. Like they do have DHL, UPS, some of them, and those are of course quick. But the regular, country service is a little bit slower. If I mail something from here, it's not going to get to like Philadelphia for like 12 to 25 days. But when I was in Philadelphia, if I mailed something from my house to California, it would be there in like 3 days, and it's roughly about the same distance. But so it's small, it's a smaller country. So their courier system is smaller. So things take longer. So that's Costa Rica. It's a beautiful place, though. I love being here. I fell in love with it the first time I visited. That's why I'm here all the time. The Ticos are really good people. The food is good. The food is like mostly rice and beans, plantains, stuff like that. Meat. And when I mean meat, I'm talking like steak, shredded beef, chicken, stuff like that. Most food is really fresh. The fruits are fresh. The vegetables are fresh. You can find a lot of stuff here you can find in the States too, because they sell a lot of stuff like that. They have Walmart here. So if you like Walmart brand, they have that brand here. They have Price Marts here. So you can find most of the stuff that you enjoy in the States. The only problem is that it is more expensive because of the import tax. So if you have to have, a certain kind of bacon, like bacon for me, I love bacon. And Costa Rican bacon and American bacon is not the same. Theirs is probably healthier 9 times out of 10. But for me, it's the flavor, it's the taste. I need American bacon. So I have to buy American bacon. So I can get it, but I'm going to pay more for it, you see. So I don't eat it as much. But when I really get homesick for some bacon, then I can have it. So you can find all those things here. It's nothing here that I've ever needed that they didn't have. Even hair products. Black people who have special hair products, I use what the Costa Ricans use, and it works fine. I use on my hair like olive oil, coconut oil, and I use they have like a kind of wax I use to twist my locks, and that's it. So that's Costa Rica. It's a beautiful place, and I love being here. Great people, and it's not that far from the United States. And the last thing I will say is that Costa Rica is not an island. Some people think Costa Rica is an island. It's not an island. It's actually landlocked. Above us is Nicaragua, and below is Panama. So we're landlocked in. And I think let me see. The water the water is to the, what is that, to the left and to the right, but to the top and to the bottom we are landlocked. So you technically could drive to Costa Rica from the United States. You could drive straight down. So it's not like you'd have to take a ferry or something like that to get across the water, because there's land straight down. And some people, believe it or not, do take that trip. All right, guys. So it's time for me to get going. And if you would like to leave a love donation, I'll leave my PayPal. If you would like to get a tarot or an oracle card reading, I will leave my information so you can email me for an appointment. Hit me up on social media. I'll leave that information too. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you know somebody that wants to know more about Costa Rica, please pass this video on to them. If you have any more questions about me, about Costa Rica, about anything, please leave them underneath this video. And when I do my next Q&A, I will let you guys know the answers. See you later.